Guten Tag, ich heiße Adam Wilbourn. He's Michael Hamfed. We're here to look ahead to this weekend's... I only did it GCSE. We're here to look ahead to this weekend's Bash in Berlin, PLA Hamfed. Without further ado, let's dive straight into the first match, and that is the women's tag team title match, the Unholy Union versus Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill. Who you got?
The Unholy Union.
Ooh.
I know. I thought I'd throw a curveball early on this one, right? I think the generosity extended to the Unholy Union when they won the tag team titles was very, very nice. However, the booking of them since has been anything but that. The division has not felt as hot as it did, the tag division that is, as when Jade and Bianca were last tag team champions. But I actually think at this point, to put the belts back on them would be a step back, and they're going to finally start to try with the Unholy Union by getting the win. Whether or not that comes from either the chemistry being slightly off between Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair, which there's been teeny tiny teasers of since they first lost the tag belts, or, and I'm feeling like this might be a bit more realistic now that they've just conveniently put the big three back together on screen, we finally get the Naomi heel turn that feels like it's also been... Just like they've only been like laying breadcrumbs, so all this stuff could be further down the line. I could be miles wrong. It could just be like an obvious win for the obvious heavy favourites. But yeah, I think we're getting what on paper looks a bit like an upset, but what will in fact start the road to Survivor Series, where maybe then we start to see the cracks properly emerge in time for a Royal Rumble where like, well, I want to win the title. Well, I want to win the title too. And then neither of them are able to do it, and then we start getting on the road to WrestleMania for the big Jade Bianca match. I kind of think it starts here.
I went for an obvious win for the obvious champions.
Yeah,
it's Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill. I think there will be some interference by Blair Davenport, this new Blair Witch project that they've got going on with the Unholy Union. I'm just going to keep doing it until they use that name.
They're the best in the business, mate. That's why you're the OTJ.
It was a lovely touch, obviously, to put the titles on Fire and Dawn, but like you said, they haven't really done a lot with it. Not the ladies themselves, just in terms of WWE's booking of them.
Yeah.
And I think it was just a temporary thing, and now they're going to put the titles back on them. I think they hold on for quite some time, and I think they are going to eventually kind of cost themselves the tag titles, because I think long term, I'd love to see Bianca and Jade at WrestleMania. Jade Cargill right now is my pick for the Women's Royal Rumble, so you're going to have to split them eventually. But yeah, I just think it was a nice experiment, but WWE were never really that invested in it.
Yeah.
And whilst they haven't got any plans for the for Cargill and Belair to do single stuff, I just think it makes sense to have them hold the tag titles for a little bit longer. I was surprised when they dropped them in the first place, so I'm always just trying to work back to get them back with those titles for the time being at least.
Yeah, you're probably right. The obvious answer does feel obvious. I just kind of want to see something different. Maybe actually back the champions you've picked for once rather than just continue to flip-flop the titles. We'll see.
Moving on, the next match. Strap match, Drew McIntyre versus CM Punk. They're going to beat the piss out of each other, aren't they?
I cannot wait for this. Look, can it be better than the SummerSlam match? I just don't know. But to a lot of people, I think it definitely will.
That'll be very hard.
Oh, yeah.
I liked it.
See this. This is more money than this a lot of the time. However, I do understand and appreciate why that match wasn't for everybody, and I think this will be a little bit more centred in what kind of got Punk and Drew to the point they were at in the run-up to SummerSlam, which is the hatred, which is the sort of all the pent-up aggression that was building between the two before they could wrestle, before they could fight. I thought the SummerSlam match was a really elegant way to bring Seth Rollins in for a match that they're going to build between Punk and Rollins, possibly for WrestleMania, it appears. But ultimately this story itself needs a sort of violent payoff. If it's not here, it's presumably going to be at Bad Blood for Hell in a Cell. But they might actually just put all their eggs in the Bash in Berlin basket. That's a lot of alliteration. They might indeed just say, right, Punk and Drew, you've got the stage. You're not going to be in the main event, but the crowd is going to be another furnace. All of these B shows that are taken to like kind of unique and new destinations just provide the most incredible atmospheres. So I don't think they're going to have to sort of worry about the noise levels and about the heat of the crowd matching the heat of the match and the feud and all that kind of thing. Punk gets the win here, I would say as well, because even if you're doing the third match rather than just wrapping it all up, then you've got the one win each, and Drew can argue that, you know, it wasn't sort of, he couldn't beat him 1, 2, 3. This is going to be the dragging around all four corners, which again, typically wouldn't be something I would particularly favour. Those big like red and green lights I like, but they do sort of make it a bit more cartoony than whereas this has been full of hatred. But Punk's had a great one of these before.
Yes.
Kind of a bit of a low-key B-show classic against Umaga once upon a time. And he's still the guy, to me, that applies more thought than just about anybody else. Even in the sort of sports entertainment sort of domain he finds himself in, maybe only Bryan Danielson is as good as CM Punk at being able to take like the reality of what he puts into his programs and add it to the kind of more faker looking WWE setting, which is what this strap match is.
Yeah, I agree. Obviously, I think CM Punk's going to win this one. It just makes sense if you build into a third match, a real brutal Hell in a Cell match, bad blood between the two of them. Like you say, I was a bit nervous when they announced that. I thought, strap match is fine, but then the stipulation of like touching all four corners, I was like, ugh.
Yeah.
But there have been occasions. Was there one with Eddie Gurerro, I seem to remember, where he just like went round with him and just tapped as they went round?
It was how they've done a load of those ones where you get the sort of tap in secret. Eddie Guerrero lost the title to JBL when he jumped so hard into JBL that his back hit the turnbuckle first. There's ways to be creative with the finish. Savio Reagan, Steve Austin had like a classic Caribbean strap match which saw the end of Ted DiBiase. But there's loads of good ones, don't get me wrong, but it does sometimes take away from the fact that you're just supposed to be beating your opponent within an inch of his life.
I don't think it's going to be quite as bloody as the dog collar match that people are comparing this to, but they have a great template to build off that with the Punk MJF match from AEW, of course.
Yeah.
Look, I know some people weren't a fan of the SummerSlam match, and I could agree with you on that, but then we'd both be wrong. Because, you see, as I've said time and time and time again, let it play out, guys. They've earned those privileges. They've learned from the fans. WWE's the listening company, and you've got to let them showcase that with the extent of wait until the feud comes to an end, I think, till you can really assess that. And I think
I agree with that, yeah.
People were saying, it should have been far more brutal, the SummerSlam match. Well, if they knew they were building to a strap match and a Hell in a Cell, why try and set yourself up for failure by building it far too high in that? They put the emotion into the SummerSlam match. I personally was a fan of it. Like you say, it's entirely subjective, naturally. But
wrist stuff ahead of the strap.
Exactly.
It's not
it's a story that they are building to. Long term, I hope CM Punk wins the whole thing, of course. But yeah, you can't really have CM Punk lose at SummerSlam and then lose the strap match and then say, all right, one more go, Hell in a Cell.
I will say this, on a card with a main event obviously centred around we have to be very careful, like not a home country, not a home nation, but somebody that is like the reaction to Gunther the world champion is going to be different gravy to what he gets in the US. And another title match on the card, I feel like Punk in particular will be in show stealing mood.
Yeah.
That will be his goal at all costs. And if he falls short of that, I think then like real questions can start being asked of the run, even more so than SummerSlam. He will want people to be talking about his match over everything else after this is all said and done.
There's not going to be a nice looking backs after this, are they? Jesus Christ.
No. Instagram will be full of those images.
Oh, right. Let's go to the Terror Twins.
The Terror Twins.
Versus the worst couple in wrestling, Dominic Mysterio and Liv Morgan. The build to this has been incredible.
Yeah, love this. You are getting everything and you are getting absolutely nothing because Liv Morgan can't lose her title here. Dominic Mysterio, there will be a moment where Rhea Ripley will appear to get her hands on Dominic Mysterio, but this can only be part of it. There will be another night for those two, maybe in singles action, maybe when the stakes are a little bit higher. Damian Priest, this is not going to get him back to his world title. This is not going to get him the revenge on Finn Balor he desperately wants, but of course, you would assume the Judgment Day, street trash will all be surrounding the ring, trying to run interference. You will get all the bits of what you want, when in reality, they're kind of giving you so little of the bigger developments within the story.
Yes.
I love this booking. I think this match is going to be a total blast. I love getting to watch Liv Morgan and Dominic Mysterio already as just the heels. From pretty much the moment that they did the pullback and reveal of the new Judgment Day, I just thought, I hate you guys. I absolutely hate the pair of yous. And the Terror Twins, in spite of, the name and pretty much every promo they've cut since they became the Terror Twins, remain just two of the most baby faces on the whole show. The reactions are incredible. Rhea Ripley's road back to that title over Liv's shoulder should be like a long and difficult one, I think, because the longer you have Liv Morgan appear undeserving, the more satisfying it's going to be when Rhea Ripley gets the belt back. I think the heels might steal this one, you know. If you just look at the layout of the rest of this card, like I've predicted CM Punk, I would fully expect both champions to retain, and on the night it might be that both babyface champions retain. I kind of think you put over, as daft as they all look, and as like cheap shotty, and as Carlito only wants to be around for the PlayStation access, like you kind of have to like give them a couple of wins. You have to legitimise them, even if they're little cheating rag bags. You know, like they're JD McDonough and Finn Balor are still the tag team champions. Like, and I think by nicking it here, like in a relatively stakes-free version of it. Maybe having Rhea Ripley getting knocked out or something, Liv Morgan getting another win. They've been hitting it hard that Liv Morgan is the reason why Dirty Dom has been able to beat his deadbeat dad. There's some more alliteration for you. To now have Dirty Dom be the reason why Liv Morgan keeps beating Rhea Ripley would be a nice bit of symmetry.
Okay. Yeah. It's interesting this, because often we are in agreement, but I disagree with you on this one as well.
Yeah.
I'm going Terra Twins for the exact reason you mentioned earlier as well, of no titles on the line. So
true,
it doesn't really affect them. Interesting with a mixed tag, obviously, it's a rarity within WWE in particular. You've seen things with like Baron Corbin and Becky Lynch in the past.
Oh boy.
Which was one of the few highlights of a dreadful match feud with Seth Rollins and Lacey Evans and all that. How do you see this one going? Obviously, you could see Rhea Ripley hitting something on Dominic. Is it as simple as Dominic potentially setting up for the three amigos, doing the shimmy on Rhea, and then Damian Priest being like, no, what are you doing? Come on. Taking his head off.
Rhea Ripley laid out and Dominic going to the top to tease doing a frog splash before Damian Priest pushes him off or something. I can see that. Do you deliver the Riptide here as well? Like, they are building up so many things that, like, pops waiting to happen. It's just whichever ones they decide to dole out here when there's still, you know, like months of story potentially to tell with all these characters.
Dominic Mysterio is a proper knobhead. So I think the finish is Rhea has Liv in position for the Riptide, and Dom has the opportunity to go in and try and save her. Damian Priest's like, step right up if you want to save your girlfriend.
That's good.
And I think maybe he backs off a little bit. I'm not saying it's the end of the relationship or anything like that, but he's not going to come and save his beloved.
I do quite like that. Yeah, just not tonight. She'll be all right. Yeah. She's got this. She's got this. Yeah, I do quite like that too.
And then if we have my booking there, you get another rematch for the women's title at Bad Blood potentially.
Oh, you get it anyway. I love this. I hope this runs and runs.
Yeah. Next up, Kevin.
It's a good card, this, isn't it? It's a good show. This
Cody, we assume not in the main event.
No.
Cody Rhodes versus Kevin Owens for the belt.
For the belt.
You've really liked the build to this, haven't you?
I love it. I absolutely love it. We are recording this, to point out, before the final SmackDown, the go-home SmackDown, to take place in Berlin. And as of now, Kevin Owens has not reacted physically to Cody Rhodes' challenge. He's not stunned him. He appeared to run and give him the belt, and then he just handed him it and all that sort of stuff.
There are 3 different occasions when he's been stood in the ring with a chair behind Cody Rhodes, and you think, old Kevin Owens is coming back.
So as you watch this, he might have dropped him on his ass at least once before this match, but he might not. They might just hold back on that, and it might be a sort of a gentleman's contest, a handshake before, handshake after, that sort of thing. I really like this story because I think it's in service of another one, and a bigger one, truthfully. Kevin Owens has been portrayed as a mostly virtuous babyface fighting the old heel within. Like, the more Cody Rhodes says, like, kind of gives him can you put us on the main camera if possible, please, Murray, because I'm going to reenact a great Bret and Owen moment. The more Cody Rhodes does hey, all right, kid. The more he sort of goes, stop, Cody. I know I said I didn't deserve a shot, but don't trust me. Don't trust me. And he hasn't done it. He hasn't done it as of yet. And I just feel like he'll go all the way through this match. There'll be a moment where he's given the opportunity. Think like Roddy Piper against Bret Hart, holding the bell above his head. Like a moment to cheat and not do it. And then he'll lose, and he'll lose honourably. And all of that is to exist for the purpose of, somebody else who's fighting for a title on this show, who is going to be far nastier when the opportunity is. Kevin Owens right now exists as the contrast to somebody that, in theory, looks like he's Cody's mate as well, but will prove to release the vapor within when they come to have their feud over the title, presumably right after this one.
Yeah, potentially. It's been an interesting balance they've had to strike with Cody Rhodes, because no one thinks he's going to drop the title until probably WrestleMania at the earliest next year. So he's counteracted that by either having matches with the Bloodline and Roman Reigns returning and all that, or just ripper matches where you never think he's going to lose, but like with AJ Styles, especially, that was another one on foreign soil, that is so well received.
Opener as well.
Yeah.
In Glasgow.
Do you think this opens?
I think it could. Yeah,
That's a good shout.
It worked in Glasgow to keep the title matches apart and keep them both hot, so yeah.
I'm trying to work out what the spot is. Is it a pop-up powerbomb into a Cody cutter? Is that the spot?
Ooh.
Because you need a moment where you think he's going to hit a finisher, not win the match necessarily. But yeah, I think it's going to be surprisingly nice from Kevin Owens.
Yeah.
Who is going to be like, you know what, I'm not going to be that guy anymore. And then he's going to be even more put out when Cody Rhodes helps out the bloodline.
Yeah, that's it.
The original bloodline.
Owens' turn can come later because Cody's going to have another turn to contend with any day now. And Owens will turn down the line, I think, but this is almost the kind of planting of that seed because he was such a good guy throughout the entire thing. It's like, look, I've been a good guy even in the face of obvious opportunities to not be.
You're right as well, because I was thinking, how do you do Kevin Owens betrays Cody Rhodes, and then Cody Rhodes is like, thank God you're here, Randy. Oh no, RKO!
Yeah, that's it.
So yeah, having him not turn when all signs point, especially with the PowerPoint that was shown recently where he betrayed everyone and didn't apologise to Xavier Woods. He said sorry to Kofi Kingston, but Xavier Woods was like, you did also powerbomb me on the edge of the ring. Let's not forget that.
That's fair, I guess.
Yeah. So I like that as a wrinkle to it. Just sticking on SmackDown before we get to what we assume is going to be the main event. If you're watching this ahead of SmackDown, if afterwards, feel free to say, you got it wrong in the comments. LA Knight's going to do an open challenge to the US Championship. Apologies. LA Knight is going to do an open challenge in Berlin. Any thoughts?
Is it too, I don't want to say obvious, considering there's a match doing the rounds right now that is already getting raves, and it was speculated on that the wrestler I'm about to name was going to be part of this card or part of these events anyway. Is it just too obvious to say Ilya Dragunov for the sentiment, for by the way, for quite a nice bit of matchmaking for LA Knight, because Ilya Dragunov's job in NXT was to elevate pretty much everybody he worked with. He did, and then he's gone on to the main roster. He's lost a lot and not been damaged by it in the slightest. His run has gone very well, despite the fact that if you ranked his wins and losses, it probably looks something like that. Like, he could lose against LA Knight here in what would be a total ripper of a match. Realistically, like a babyface versus babyface one. I don't think either man would necessarily get booed. I just think it would be another night where LA Knight gets to look like, dare I say it, like not just a fighting champion, but like a wrestling champion. Yeah. And he's more of a bells and whistles guy.
Yeah, the difficulty with Dragunov, like you say, is are you going to have him be this hugely popular challenge to just then lose? Because LA Knight's not dropping the US title for a while either. I've seen a lot of speculation online. People like Mello, people like Andrade, who are obviously involved with each other at the moment. A US Open challenge suggests one name straight into your head, who's on his final year pretty much.
Yeah.
I don't know whether we are going to see John Cena. I think if they were going to do John Cena, they'd have put it on the PLE.
He has made surprise appearances at, the UK show for Money in the Bank, and was it Toronto at Money in the Bank this year? Both unadvertised, both with huge announcements, huge moments. So as a way to start his 50-day, 50-match tour, never wrestling at whatever the thing he's doing, that'd be quite the night. But no pun intended.
I also saw some people saying Joe Hendry, and I thought, you've not been watching NXT. He's got a title shot on Sunday.
He's a busy boy.
So I don't think they're going to do that one just yet. I think the main roster appearance of Joe Hendry will happen in the Royal Rumble, and then they'll go from there if they're going to get him to stick around, fingers crossed. So the name I am going to suggest is someone who's been teased on numerous occasions on SmackDown but hasn't properly shown up yet. Yes, you could have Ludwig Kaiser step up, but why not have a former stablemate of his in Giovanni Vinci?
I love it. Yes.
Get a great reaction.
They can do the big sort of like that, and they can do the freeze straight. Yeah, because he's not really been reintroduced formally yet on SmackDown.
Just had lots of vignettes.
But it's going to be that. We're getting that character back. That's inspired.
Thanks, brother. Let's get to the main event. Gunther versus Randy Orton World Heavyweight Championship. Obviously a sensational match, King of the Ring, between the two of them. And we sort of speculated when Gunther was going to be defending the IC title at WrestleMania that Orton could have been a good opponent for him then, because for everything that Gunther can do, you'd 100% bite on an RKO being the thing to beat him. I don't think anyone's going to think that Randy Orton's going to dethrone Gunther, another person who I think is probably going to hold his title until WrestleMania, perhaps. But they obviously have such good chemistry together, and yeah, he sold so well, did Randy, when he last fought Gunther.
Oh yeah, like their chemistry was like, I don't want to say shockingly good.
Yeah, no, I agree though.
Gunther has great matches with everybody, and Orton's this like 20-year pro who's found like a rich vein of form right now as well, but it was shockingly good, their chemistry together. It is quite something, isn't it? Can you imagine a time, maybe like cast your mind back to sort of the early 2010s when you would have had Randy Orton, who like an incredible physique by the way, but kind of looks like when you scoop spaghetti out of the drainer, like sort of strings off the spoon, versus Gunther and him being the bigger man.
Yeah.
Like big, jacked Randy Orton versus big but lean Gunther. Like he potentially gets to out-muscle Gunther in spots, and you saw like little glimpses of that in the King of the Ring match. They didn't play on the typical Gunther chemistry of like, well, I'm not as big as I used to be, but I'm still pretty strong and tough. Like he couldn't be the big bully heel against Randy Orton. He would cut him down to size a little bit in the way that he would against a Sheamus or a Drew McIntyre, but he would have to do that first before he could monster him, and I think we're going to get that here. I think the heat is going to be out the ass. Of course it is. The rematch,
deafening in Berlin.
The rematch was like, might exist because of an accident in terms of how we got that finish and how Triple H said, and he kind of had to because the shoulders were obviously up, one of these days Randy Orton will get his rematch and all that kind of thing. So I kind of can't wait to see this play out just for the spectacle of it. But I do expect the match quality to be quite high as well. Orton in pretty much from the Survivor Series come back onwards has sort of become one of my favourite wrestlers to watch.
Yeah.
I never thought I would see the day. All I had to do with Randy Orton, it's crazy. Like what a prodigy he is. It's like Randy Orton debuts 20 odd years later and I think he's pretty good. Like who'd have thought it? The WWE developmental machine in action.
Yes.
And as well, as we've kind of alluded to, and now I can actually just say his name.
Joe Hendry.
I expect Randy Orton to lose this match and then return to SmackDown where he actually lives and be like, anyway, about that, like, I'll take title shots for you, and I'm out, Cody. I noticed you gave one to our good friend Kevin Owens, so I'll take one now, thanks very much. And Cody's like, you sort of lost the title match, Randy. You know, I want to give you one, respect, legacy, love you, but you know, it is. What, pal? You what, mate? And then Randy Orton's heel turn begins, and you have the match that, like, again, loads of people fantasy booked for ages.
Is that further facilitated by Randy Orton seeming to pin Gunther with Gunther's shoulder just off the mat and the referee spotting it? And he goes, oh, you spotted for him, do you?
I do like that. Like, that's a real tightrope to walk. If you...
I'm not saying you count three.
No, but if you do that
1,
spot,
2, and everyone's like, the shoulder!
I like that spot. I really like that. Again, in the right building on the right night, and I think that's a great spot for this, for the drama.
The other spot I've got is because, Randy Orton is a respected veteran who's been through a lot and kind of can survive a lot. Mm-hmm. He's going to get the crap chopped out of him. I have no doubt there's going to be a spot where he goes for an RKO, he gets pushed off and just absolutely nailed by Gunther. I think Gunther hits him with some of his best shots and then decides, sometimes as he has to do, I'm going to have to go up top, and there's your spot for the RKO, the big flying Gunther into the sort of Evan Bourne-esque. I'm not saying Gunther does a flip, but the RKO as he's jumping off the top for an incredible near fall. But yeah, Gunther retains, obviously, to a deafening reaction. It's nice to pick Orton here as well. I know he's a babyface now, but if there's someone who can be a situational heel in a place like this where, I mean, no one's going to be cheering for Randy.
I've seen babyface Randy Orton be a situational heel in a car park after a wrestling show asking for a cigarette. Like, that man knows how to be a not very nice guy.
Yeah.
Like the spot for me, assuming he's going to be the heel, by the way, we do read the comments and we do sort of see that there's no guarantee that Gunther will be this overwhelming babyface. Like, it's set up that way from us idiots here in the UK and in America. It's just like, Europe, cheered.
Yeah.
Might not work like that. Randy Orton's a massive star, he's a legacy wrestler, no pun intended, all that sort of thing. I think Gunther is going to be like crawling back to his feet, and I think Orton's going to tease the punt.
Wow.
He's going to do the full run up. Gunther's going to like roll against it or something, trip him up, and then just as soon as they pop back up, drill him with a chop. Like, so he's just survived the worst of the possible attack and then just floors him with something like that. Orton's great at like selling that again, despite his bigger frame, he's brilliant to sell it. You can even visualize him in your head going, like it's going to like the tan that he's always got, the handprint penetrating the tan, the whole it's going to be great.
He also is one of the few people that a slap or a chop, I should say, would make you think, ooh, he had spinal fusion surgery, that could ruin his back.
Oh, just chops to the neck.
Just chops to the neck, chops to the base of the spine.
Like Orton used to do the Garvin stomp. Like, just I've got the Gunther chop. Just like to down Randy Orton, chop there, chop there, chop there. Just like, but instead of stomps, just chops.
Works for me.
We'll complete it.
Let us know your thoughts on that match and Bash in Berlin in the comments section below or on X at WhatCultureWWE. We'll be here with all the fallout from Bash in Berlin, of course. But for now, from Michael Hamfed, from myself, thank you for watching. And why not check out this video right here? We'll see you soon.